Report.
Tonight, heroin Britain. The shocking new evidence. 150 deals a minute, 80 million deals a year, 1 death a day.
Get out. Let's go. Whoa, let's go.
The high street dealers selling heroin at pocket money prices. And the most amazing supplier of all, the grandmother who deals in death on a dead-end street. Very unusual grandmother, 69 years old and selling crack and heroin.
Who told you that?
We've actually been in this house and filmed her doing it.
Eh?
Heroin is back in fashion and cheaper than ever. It's now the drug of choice, but one which always involves other unedifying choices. Choose crime. These two Sheffield addicts are on the run from the law as they steal to feed their habit. Choose prostitution. This 14-year-old has sex with up to 50 men a week to buy drugs. Choose profit. The grandmother who ruins young lives, selling misery from the safety of her sitting room. Or choose life. How the heroin explosion has become big business for the treatment clinics. Up in a high-rise tenement block in Sheffield, another day of desperation is about to begin. For 2 of the 250,000 heroin addicts in Britain, every waking hour is spent either shooting up or stealing to buy yet more of the drug they call smack or brown.
Golden brown, texture like sun, lays me down with my mind, she runs throughout the night. No need to fight, never a frown with golden brown.
9 a.m. and it's off to the shops, not to buy but to steal. Of course, while we're with them, nothing is stolen.
We'll go in a shop and if we can come out with like 40 quid out of that shop, we'll like be buzzing and we'll have all that, and then next hour might be able to get £10 worth and we'll be back out again.
In fact, they're so well known here, they're thrown out by security guards anyway.
We'll pinch £10 worth, have that £10 worth, back out again, get another £10 worth, it's like £10 worth every hour, you know what I mean? And then walking up a road until we see a next pub. Walk in pub, we'll sell it on in pub.
And sure enough, when we catch up with them a few hours later, we find them selling whiskey at half price to raise their drug money. And another deal is only a mobile phone call away.
We'll phone up to arrange to meet them in 10 minutes at a certain place and meet them there and get it off them.
Small deals like this are carried out openly and are over in seconds. The craving is constant.
£20 worth each could just about see us through to the next day, but we do anything from 20 to 100 each.
They're both desperate to quit their habit, but the trouble is they can't help themselves.
I'd like to just get back to how I was before I even smoked that first little bit of heroin, whereby I'd got a girlfriend, I'd got a house, a car, I'd just been promoted, and I was just leading a normal life, really progressing, and I'd just like to get back to that and stop being basically the nobody that I am now.
More crime, then the incessant hunt for another deal continues.
It can be difficult at times it just may be a coincidence that not every dealer is on at that time. So, but well, I mean, we've carried on for 3 years now, so that's how easy it is. We're able to score every day when we need to.
The stealing, dealing and drug taking goes on in a vicious circle well into the night.
Balloon's gonna get mashed. What are you after?
No.
10 bag. 10. Start off at 8 o'clock in the morning and we still out here at 10 o'clock at night looking to get your next bag for you.
Hey mate, am I alright to ring? Am I alright to ring for you? Yeah, nice one. Cheers.
In the past 20 years, heroin addiction has risen by more than 2,000% to reach an all-time high.
There's a lot of heroin deaths around. I've dealt with 3 heroin deaths in just the last week. We're looking at 90 drug abuse deaths in Sheffield over the last 5 years. I think parents would be shocked. I think parents should be shocked at the scale of what is actually going on in the community.
Craig Scott is a young victim of the heroin boom. He played keyboards with top rock band Elastica. His father could only watch helplessly as his son's addiction led to its deadly conclusion.
It was destroying his life. It had become the focal point. It had become like a love affair. And he was losing everything. He was no longer interested in writing and playing his music, which was, before that, was his life. He lost his girlfriend. She wanted to get away from the whole drug scene, you know, she couldn't handle it. And he was really heading down towards the bottom of the pit.
Craig lost his battle with heroin and died 9 months ago. There are 80 million heroin deals done a year. That's 150 transactions every minute of every day. Heroin is everywhere. Dealers come in all shapes, sizes and ages. Tucked away in a cul-de-sac in Sheffield, we found the most extraordinary comings and goings. At one house in particular, there's a constant stream of visitors, on foot and in cars. Inside the house behind me is somebody who would vie for the title of Britain's most unusual drug dealer. She's a 69-year-old grandmother called Louise Wigan. Yet 7 days a week, she sells crack, cocaine and heroin to any youngster who cares to knock on the door. But you won't find her dealing in the streets. She's a virtual recluse. She's only been to the pensions office twice in 5 years. Granny Wigan's reclusive nature means that we have to go in undercover to expose her drug dealing. Mrs. Wigan is suspicious as she sits amongst 3 generations of family.
Are you sure it belongs to you?
Yeah.
Because boy, me too old for policeman come all me. Oh, you not feel? Innit?
Yeah.
As she explains, she doesn't want to be sent to prison at her age. But finally, she orders her family to complete the handover of hard drugs. Here it is again. Addicts get money wherever and however they can, and the sums involved are almost beyond belief.
I'm 14 years old, my name's Dawn, I'm a prostitute and I go with about 50 men a week. That's about £2,000 a week to support my drug habit.
Every year, young Dawn needs to make £100,000. That's as much as the Prime Minister earns, and she does it by selling her body up to 50 times a week.
You can't sleep, you just lay there all night. You hear a sound, you're up, you think it's the police, or the police have come, what they're coming for. They come to tell me she's dead, or she's raped, or she's badly beat up, or have they just come to bring her home or arrested her? Because it didn't matter what I did to her, what I said, she wouldn't stop.
Even though Dawn can't help her hopeless addiction, she knows she walks a fine line between life and a tragically early death. Teenage deaths from drugs like heroin have trebled in the past 10 years.
OK, can you turn to page 36 in your workbooks, please? And we've got 3 little exercises to do.
There was a time when the police usually only came to schools to talk about road safety. Now it's about drugs. Whether the technique works is yet open to question. Unfortunately, the evidence currently seems to show that educating children about drugs doesn't necessarily stop them experimenting with them. Indeed, on the current figures nationally, 1/3 of children of this age group will have tried at least 2 illicit drugs by the time they're 13. In part 2, in full public view, the cure that kills. We expose the black market trade in a treatment for heroin. And we meet violence in one of Britain's most notorious drug dens.
Well, let's go.
The heroin trail now reaches deep into Britain's countryside. In Blandford Forum, in Dorset's Thomas Hardy territory, heroin has found a country home. This is Matty Amor, one of several heroin dealers operating in Blandford. To get inside his den, a young man already using heroin but trying to stop agrees to help us.
Right. Alright, matey.
I'm just doing one of your bags, but I'll give you one back in a bit.
Yeah, alright.
When I get mine dropped off.
Amor has invited him home, and our hidden camera catches the dealer preparing to inject himself with heroin before offering the drug around. Afterwards, a familiar routine begins as we film Amor taking our man to meet new people. One dealer always leads to another. In this case, 2 new faces, Rich in the bomber jacket and Marcus in the hat. They lead our man away from Amor's house to a side street where Rich hands over a heroin deal or wrap for just £10, less than the price of a CD.
It's better than what I had earlier. Look better.
Apparently your keys were right.
Is that better than what you had earlier?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Matty took some out.
I've been trying to get him to do me better bags, Chuck. I always remind him every time.
Minutes later, Marcus sells us methadone, the very substance doctors prescribe to wean addicts off heroin.
Nice one, mate.
That's cool.
Alright.
But methadone in the wrong hands has become the cure that kills.
It has got a market value. And in medicine, any prescription that a doctor gives which has got a market value is a very dangerous prescription because it is sellable.
The misuse of methadone kills as many people as does heroin. The Cook Report set up its cameras to watch this chemist shop in North London. It's openly used by heroin addicts who want to sell their legally prescribed methadone to buy more hits of their real drug of choice. And this is how it works. A desperate couple and baby approach the dealer in the brown coat and ask for ampoules of methadone for injection. As he takes their money, he slips the ampoules to the young mother, who hides them under the baby's blankets. Watch her left hand in our replay. the buy over, mother and baby can afford to exchange a smile. A Cook Report undercover man sets out to see if he too can tap into this ready supply of methadone.
Oh, mate. You got any ounce?
Soon he finds an addict willing to sell his prescription for £20, and the process begins.
I'll only be 2 minutes, yeah?
All right, I'll come in and make sure.
I have to clear up the door here because it just seems to be coming in with something like that. I won't be going.
Inside the shop, the constant demands for the trappings of drug addiction are shouted out like a market trader selling his wares.
2 mil barrel, and 1 mil IV. 1 mil IV, 2 mil barrel, short orange needle.
The methadone safe in his pocket, the addict leads our researcher to a nearby bookies. It's a sure thing that the money we've paid him for the methadone will be spent within minutes on heroin.
All right, thanks a lot, mate. Take care, all right.
Back outside the chemist shop, another deal goes down in full public view.
He's got one.
The dealer doesn't even bother to hide the drugs.
Chris, is any good here? Welcome. Keiko, Mola. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a situation the chemist, who legally dispenses the methadone, says he's powerless to prevent.
This is methadone, a Class A drug that kills people. It was purchased in a transaction which began inside your chemist shop and ended in the street outside. How do you feel about that?
I think that's terrible. It's absolutely appalling that this should still take place.
Well, why does it still take place?
There's a number of issues. There's too much being prescribed by the doctors. And when you try and control it, you can't, because if you see a deal taking place as such, the police take too long to come in, and we can't execute a citizen's arrest. It's too dangerous.
Heroin addicts commit crimes costing the economy £50 billion a year. With this big problem has come big business. Now a top advertising agency has been signed up to promote a new treatment for heroin addiction.
Why do you want to come off it?
There's a million and one reasons.
This is Mark. He's tried 4 different ways to come off heroin, and they've all failed. This initial treatment costs £2,000 for a 5-day course and uses the heroin antidote called naltrexone. First, Mark has a psychiatric assessment. Then a medical checkup before being sedated for 3 days to avoid the nightmare all addicts fear, cold turkey. The clinic claims 60% of its patients are still free of heroin 9 months after taking this course.
The next phase is that I'll be giving you 3 injections, okay? One's to stop you getting stomach cramps in the near future. One's to get you off to sleep. And the other one is to sort of half keep you asleep.
If he leaves the clinic clean of heroin, he must take the antidote every day for the next year. Almost 90% of addicts return to heroin after attempting to kick the habit. All recovering addicts need the support of their families. Many don't receive it. 15-year-old Kirsty McFadden was lucky. When she ran away last year, her desperate parents tried everything. They even had her photograph printed on supermarket milk cartons in the hope that she could be found. And she was. Begging on the streets of Bristol. Her mother's relief at finding Kirsty evaporated when the family discovered she'd been begging to feed a £600-a-week heroin habit.
You go into St Paul's, St Jude's, St Werburgh's. You go into the town centre, Broadmead, and you'll see people stood there handing over drugs for money. I mean, it's everywhere. That's why they call it Smack City.
But is it really that bad? A Cook Report team went onto the streets of Bristol to see if Kirsty's warnings were true. Within 5 minutes, we were sold our first £10 wrap of heroin openly in the streets as if it were perfectly normal. The word on the streets of Bristol is that the best place to score is a notorious cafe that made the news last year.
24-year-old Darren Duncan was found dead at the wheel of his Volkswagen car outside the Black and White Cafe.
The Black and White Cafe in the St Paul's district was the scene of a drive-by shooting last year. It's also in every drug addict's guide to buying heroin. It's as easy as this. You pay cash to a dealer at the door. He then tells you to go in and buy a drink at the counter.
Go buy a drink. Go just buy a drink.
Have a Coke, please, mate.
Then, while barman Stephen Wilkes serves your drink, someone slips the drugs into your pocket. It's common practice to keep the drugs and the money separate. After 2 successful buys of heroin there, we went back to the Black and White Cafe to confront Mr. Wilkes.
I'll talk to you about dealing in heroin.
Me?
That's what happens in here. We bought some heroin in here. We've just bought a £25 wrap here, haven't we?
I see you on TV all the time.
Yeah, well, this has been bought in here.
Rubbish.
This is a wrap of heroin.
I don't know anything about it. Get out anyway. Get out.
Mr. Wilkes and his friends decide they don't want to discuss drug dealing anymore.
Get me locked up then, Mr. Cook. You little wank.
There is some good news. The Cook Report has found an addiction clinic that will help both Sheffield lads. We've handed all our filmed evidence on the drug dealers we've exposed, including grandmother Louise Wigan, to the police. Dawn is now receiving counselling, but still has a long way to go. Mark completed the detox, and 2 weeks later, he's still free of drugs. The bad news: places like the Black and White Cafe are still in business countrywide, and heroin dealing in Britain has reached an all-time high.
I don't know anything about it. Get out anyway. Get out.
If you'd like free and confidential advice on heroin and other drugs, please call the National 24-Hour Drugs Helpline on 0800 77 66 00.